Anna, thanks for tuning in. So today I really wanted to do a video specifically only discussing inner work because in my mind, in my opinion, this awakening process, this ascension process is all about the inner work. And this is the process of purification and refinement that I've been talking about that allows us to come back to a state of wholeness within. So it's about, you know, I like the analogy of the river, right? Removing all the gunk, all the rocks, to allow the pure flow of the water to flow through us, so that we become the tree of life. We can feel this living water flowing inside of us, and it's an incredible feeling. Um, so this process, what I want to touch on is that, I've mentioned before, it's a process of, um, expanding our awareness and viewing or seeing the world exactly as it is, seeing ourselves exactly as we are, seeing people exactly as they are. So there is an aspect of this that requires, research and knowledge. But what I want to talk about today, I think I'm going to use the framework of mind, body, spirit, just because I need a framework to discuss that. Because to be honest, inner work is holistic, so it's actually a really good framework um, to help me discuss this today. And what I also want to say, which is what I've mentioned before, is that this process is entirely personal and experiential. And you also don't need to go digging. You need to start paying real attention to what's happening in your life and in your body, because your body, your mind, your life is always communicating to you, and there is a divine intelligence guiding you. So you're not doing this on your own. Um, so let's start with the mind. I personally, and we're all different, right? But my journey has actually been, I've realized by discussing with a lot of other people that my journey has very much been more linear than others, in the sense that I feel like I've done it from the bottom up. Like I've built the foundation and started rising up. So it's been a lot more linear than other people, and not to say that I've done it better. It's just that that's how my guidance has guided me to do it. So this is where I've been. Yeah, this is how I've been guided to do it, and so this is how I'm going to be discussing it. So in my opinion, starting with the mind is actually very important, um, because once you start paying attention to what's happening in your mind, and the only way I've been able to do this is through meditation. And I'm not talking about hours and hours of meditation and taking yourself out of body. I'm talking about even just 5 minutes a day, just purely connecting with your body and with your mind to pay attention to what's happening. This is how I've been able to identify that I had a really nasty inner critic uh, that was living rent free in my mind. So, with the society that we live in, where we're so busy, I was working a full time job, I was raising 3 kids. I didn't have time to really pay attention to what was going on, right? Like I was just like everyone else in the rat race, just living unconsciously and just going through the motions without really paying attention to what was going on inside of me. So this is a process that really helped me. And why it's important to identify this from the very beginning is that um, you can't do this ascension path, this awakening path, with an inner critic in your mind. It would be like, um, you know, taking 2 steps forward and going 5 steps backwards, or like, it's like pushing on the gas pedal in the car whilst braking at the same time. This inner critic has to be evicted because you can't progress without that, or with that, I mean, in your mind. So the first point of call, like I said, is to actually pay attention to what's happening in your mind. And once you identify that as well, this meditation process has allowed me to, was actually very powerful, even just 5 minutes a day, I'm telling you guys, very powerful in allowing me to pause in my life. So I think a lot of people have mentioned in various books, or a lot of different experts have talked about this pause, right? To pause before reacting. And I wasn't able to do that until I started meditating 5 minutes a day. I'm not doing it anymore now because I've purified so much in myself and I don't feel I need it. But I needed it at the beginning to really get there. So I was then able, it was actually incredible the first time I felt that, where I was able to pause before reacting with my kids, to actually pause before I even answered my partner. Like, it was actually a very powerful um, shift inside of me, to be able to be a lot more responsive in my life instead of being reactive. So to specifically talk about purifying our mind and evicting that inner critic, what I want to stress is that this ascension path, this awakening path, a lot of the work that's required is very mundane, tedious, repetitive, and boring. And I feel like this is why a lot of people don't want to do it, because they'd rather do the really exciting stuff that they're being led to online to, I don't know, like open their third eye or do all these rituals, open their third eye and the kundalini and all of that. But the actual tedious, repetitive, and mundane stuff is actually how you really move the needle on this path and how you really see the shifts inside. And those shifts actually reflect in a real quality of life on the outside. So I can't stress that enough. And you have to be willing to apply yourself and do that work. No matter how boring it is, no matter how you think you don't have the time and you're too tired, I'm telling you, I think within 6 months of applying myself daily, rewiring my neural pathways and reframing this inner critic, every time I became aware of it, I reframed it into a loving thought and I started talking to myself in a very loving way to reframe it every single time, because that's how you reframe your neural pathways, right? Like, I mean, there's just so much information about neuroscience and how it all works now. So there is a lot of information explaining that, but I can tell you that once I've applied this in my life, it's actually true. It's exactly how you reframe and rewire your neural pathways, to the point that within 6 months, I no longer had that inner critic. I no longer had this monkey mind that's constantly thinking, and like there's just so much busy noise in my mind. Now, it's empowering. It's like it's taking control back over what's happening in your mind, really. Um, and I'm not talking about a pure emptying of the mind, a dissolution. I think a lot of spiritual advice focuses on that, and I think it's very dangerous to do that, because we're not checking out. We're not completely dissolving our ego. Like, the lower ego has to be purified, but we still have an ego. The soul is an ego. It's an individuality. So you're not dissolving anything. You're just purifying. I want to stress that, because you're still very much, critical thinking is very much important. Um, I don't like when people give advice about dissolving your mind and checking out and becoming this empty person that doesn't feel and think anything, because then what's controlling you, right? Like, we have to become fully in our body. We need to come to a place. The place of wholeness is fully occupying our body, a full human, embodying their spirit and thinking clearly, feeling clearly, right? That's the true path of empowerment. Um, so the other thing that you do when you do this work on your mind is identifying the various programs, the unhealthy belief systems that are keeping you stuck, or to put it simply, the cognitive distortions that we all have to purify, right? Like, we've all absorbed a lot of cognitive distortions from our environment, from various negative experiences that we've been through. So this ability to pay attention to what's happening in your life through your various relationships, to be able to identify your patterns and those cognitive distortions is very powerful, because again, it's going to help you purify that, rewire that, reframe that. And it actually helps you understand yourself better, understand what's driving you, what's happening. And this is the part where it's very helpful to look at our childhood, right? and not to blame our parents for anything, but just to empower ourselves, really, to um, to understand what's driving me right now. Like, why am I seeing this in this way? And it's a process of, you know, purifying that skewed perception. Um, because a lot of the times, you know, that's been my journey. I was not seeing things clearly. I was assigning negative meaning to things that just weren't there. Um, and you do it through, it's very helpful to do it through dialogue with people, right? Um, that's when I spent a lot of time actually working with my partner at the time, where I was able to tell him, you know, when you tell me something like that, this is what I feel. Like, can you clarify what you mean? And so having that conversation and you know, it's not always possible to do it with people, but it's very helpful sometimes to be able to have a dialogue with um, identifying whether it's actually cognitive distortion or whether you're picking up on something that's real. Um, and the last thing that I want to touch on about the mind is that I find it so important to read books. And I know a lot of people are not going to like me saying that. Um, but when I started this journey, I had 3 kids. I had gone through really bad sleep deprivation for 2 years with my second child. My mind was absolutely mush. I could not concentrate. Even sometimes my partner was talking to me, and halfway through the discussion, like my mind would wander. I could not concentrate and be fully present. And so what saved me actually, it was to start that YouTube channel that I have about parenting, where I started summarizing books, because it was a process of not only reading the books but actually taking notes. Because often when your mind is mush, and this is actually a reality for a lot of people these days, because we have these phones that unfortunately um, have basically made us have a like a goldfish attention span, where we can no longer read entire books or watch an entire 1 hour video. Like, a lot of people are just been programmed now to just only be able to digest very small snippets of information, which is very dangerous, because neuroscience tells us, what, you know, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't use your neural networks, you actually lose them. That's why it's important for older people to continue to do things like reading books, or like crosswords, or like learning a new language, because they actually have to continue to use their mind to avoid falling into um, dementia or Alzheimer, right? Um, my grandfather, who died at 90 years old, was so sharp in his mind, and that's because he was doing crossword every single day to continue to think critically and to think clearly. Um, so the process that I went through of reading books, writing notes, and summarizing it back to then record that video was incredible in rewiring my mind. Uh, to make me be able to actually read books now without actually writing notes anymore, because I can retain the information. And that's where you have to start, right? When, you know, if you're in a position where you can no longer read books, which again, there's no shame in that, because it's a majority of people. Um, it's actually very helpful to start writing notes, because there's something that happens in your mind. It's been studied, where when you write notes, it engages a different part of your brain for retention. Um, so yeah, that's what I would recommend. And it's, again, I want to explain that this process of purifying our mind is so that we come to a place where we have a sharp mind. It's not a place of dissolution where we're no longer in our mind. No, we're still very much using our mind. It's an amazing tool that we've been given that we need to use, but it needs to be purified so we can think clearly, sharply, more critically, um, and overall be you know, empowered with our mind, right? So that it can be a really useful tool for us on this journey. So I think that's what I wanted to say about the mind. So now I'll move on to the body. And again, actually, one thing that I want to say is that all the information that I talk about on this channel is actually so simple. This path is not complicated. It's just very simple, but it's repetitive. It requires a lot of work and effort. Um, And I feel like, unfortunately, in this day and age, we need to come back to simplicity and common sense. So, what I'm talking about is not groundbreaking, and I'm very aware of that. Um, so, the next point that I want to make is the body. So, again, this process of purification and refinement within to come back to a place of wholeness is a process of being fully present in our body and having our spirit occupy every single place in our body with light, right? So, from that perspective, one thing that we need to start with, and it's the majority of people because that's what society has done, where our focus has been taken externally, we need to come back to focusing on what's happening inside of us and to come back to reconnecting with our body. So this is where, again, meditation has been very helpful for me because the type of meditation that I did was just simply closing my eyes and connecting with my body to be actually fully present in my body during that meditation and reconnecting with my emotional body, with my emotions, to try to pinpoint what's happening inside my body. What am I feeling? What are those emotions trying to tell me? Because emotions are messengers. There's nothing wrong with emotions. We actually, again, just like the mind, we need emotions. It's a very powerful tool, but we need to be able to understand what those emotions are trying to tell us. Um, and so a lot of us, the reason why we are so disassociated from our body is because our attention has been focused externally, but also there's a lot of disassociation that we've experienced based on various negative experiences and traumas and toxic environment that we've been in that forced us into escaping our pain and our life. And so it's been a coping mechanism. And disassociating can simply be like, the way I was doing it was that I was really living in my mind in a fantasy land sometimes, instead of really addressing the issues that I had in my life and the toxic relationship that I was in. I was, living in a dream world. That's a type of disassociation, right? And so the process, this ascension process, is a process of coming back to being fully present, to no longer need to be daydreaming or anything like that. It's actually been very interesting and strange to experience, because I've done so much daydreaming in my life that now that it's gone, I don't even have the capacity to do it anymore. It's like actually very strange. Um, and by daydreaming, I don't mean that I can't visualize stuff and think about stuff. I mean the fantasy daydreaming. Um, and yeah, I'm not able to do it because I guess I don't need it anymore. Another, so like, yeah, coming back into our body, coming back to fully being present into our body and feeling what's happening so we can identify the what our body is trying to tell us, because our body is very intelligent and acting on it. Another thing that I want to mention is that this is the part where we need to address all addictions, whether it's addiction to the phone, whether it's addiction to, I don't know, alcohol, various drugs. This is a tedious part where we need to address that. You can't progress on this path without addressing all of that stuff. And I'm not talking about any dogmatic views of anything like that, but I'm talking about specifically about addictions. And I mean, we all know that. Deep down, we all know that. It's just that we don't really want to face it and address it, right? What's been very helpful for me as well has been to fuel my body, because this process of occupying our body or our spirit, embodying more and more of our spirit and light into our body, is actually quite painful. Divine light is actually pure fire. That's what I've realized. And it actually will trigger a lot of pain in your body if you have deficiencies to address, which can be a good thing, right? Because it actually alerts you to what needs to be addressed. But basically what it's addressing, or what it's telling you, is that your body needs nourishment. It needs, the cells in your body needs a lot of nourishment to be able to hold that light and anchor it. So some stuff that I've had to address was mineral deficiencies. Me having had 3 kids and 3 pregnancies, I definitely had to address that. One thing that's really helped me with that was very simply, honestly, drinking really good quality water. And I'm not talking about tap water, I'm talking about actual mountain mineral water and fulvic acid. I've actually spoken to a lot of people on this path, and we've all been drawn to fulvic acid in one way, shape, or form. And the reason why, it's because our food and soil is and water is currently quite depleted of all the uh, minerals and vitamins in trace form that we need. And so fulvic acid is full packed of those mineral and vitamins and various elements in trace form. And so drinking a little bit of it every day has a way of refueling every cell in your body. And the nourishment in your cell is what allows that light to be absorbed and anchored. Um, so that's been very helpful on this journey for me. And another thing is gut health. Everyone's talking about it. So again, I'm not saying anything groundbreaking. It's been said that the gut is the second brain. So again, it's linked to having a sharp mind. And we don't need to make it overly complicated. I mean, obviously, if you have difficult health issues, you need to find experts. But a lot of our health issues can simply be addressed by eating the rainbow, so wide variety of colors in your diet to get all the good and bacteria and different vitamins and minerals. And yeah, and fulvic acid is also very helpful for that. So again, addressing gut health is very simple. And sometimes I feel like we can go off in tangents and think we need all these vitamins and all that stuff, because our mind likes to overcomplicate things. But actually, and I know because I've done it, I know that I've been drawn to different things, and then I've come back to simplicity over and over again, and I've been able to address my gut health. But yeah, like eating the rainbow and avoiding any fake foods, like the actual simple stuff that everyone knows. Um, so yeah, again, uh, focusing on the body is very important. The fulvic acid is also very helpful in helping your nervous system adjust with all you're going through on this journey, because there's actually a lot of shift in energy and change that you don't even know it's actually happening in your body, and that's why you can be very exhausted on this journey. So it really helps you. Um, it helps your nervous system adjust. It helps you be less tired, so that you don't give up and you keep going. And the last part that I want to address is spirit. So you can't actually do this path without the spiritual component. I think I've been very clear on that from the beginning. I think this is where psychology can be really helpful, but it's missing a key component. And I don't think you can do true healing without the spiritual component, because it's a big part of us. We have a soul, regardless of whether you want to believe in it or not. It's still there. So the spiritual component is paramount. It's the path. It's part of the path. So that's also why you're not just purifying in the sense that like you're removing things. You're also filling yourself with spirit. So there's a refilling that needs to happen. You can't just dissolve everything and be nothing. That's the sure way of going into spiritual psychosis, actually. You have to refill yourself with spirit. This is the process of wholeness. You're coming into embodying your spirit more and more. And so the process of meditation that I've done, of reconnecting with my body and my emotions, is actually what's really helped me reconnect with my spirit, with my intuition, with the various impulses, and the way my spirit communicates with me. Because what I've realized on this path, and I know that I'm going against what a lot of people say out there, but that's okay. That's what I've experienced, and I truly believe it's true. emotions in their pure form are actually spiritual. It's spirit. So I don't agree with this notion that spirit is this wisps of um, light that doesn't feel anything. Um, Emotions are deeply spiritual, and it makes sense when you think about it, because that's why artists, through emotions, are able to really tap into the, that it's a heavenly realms, right? Really tap into that and come up with amazing music and amazing poetry and amazing creations. So this process of reconnecting with my emotions, um, and this process was very tedious for me, and I've documented that in my other parenting channel, because I was actually completely disconnected from my emotions at some point. So I had to actually be able to even have the vocabulary of emotion and identify the various emotions happening in my body to nights to such a finer point that I can tell when I'm feeling multiple emotions at the same time. But you need to come to such a subtle level of sensing things that you're able to tell what's yours and what's not yours, because there's various impulses that are working through us and are trying to work through us. It's the metaphorical angel and devil on the shoulder. And so you have to be able to identify what's truly from spirit and pure and trying to guide you, and what's actually trying to destabilize you and send you on the wrong path. So the process that I've had, I would say my only spiritual practice on this path has been to every day ground in nature with my feet in the grass and spend time with myself, not in meditation, but just in myself with zero distractions, no books, no music, nothing, and just spend time with myself, communing with myself, um, and with spirit, and being able to identify what's happening, what's flowing through me. There were times where I had to make decisions and take action, and I would sit on it for a few days or a few weeks before making a decision, because I want to make sure that um, it's coming from a pure place. And I feel that it's not enough people are doing that. Not enough people are questioning themselves and questioning the various impulses that are coming through them. And I feel like it's actually a very big issue and mistake, because the way spirit communicates to us is very subtle. And so, you have to understand that this process of reconnecting within and purifying and going deeper and deeper and into finer and more subtle forms of sensing what's happening takes time. And because it's a purification process, you have to be able to identify and question what's flowing through me. What's happening here? Am I feeling something that's pure and really trying to guide me? And is this an action and decision that I have to really make, no matter how painful it is, because I know it's for my highest good? Or is this a reaction, and is this coming from a different place and trying to take me off on a tangent? So it's very much a muscle that we're building, and it takes time and it takes years to practice this. There's no shame in it. I feel like a lot of people make the mistake to think that they've reconnected, sorry, with their intuition, and so now the intuition is always right. And I've observed it many times in myself and others that actually our interpretation is wrong. So when you spend time connecting within, communing and connecting within, you can identify whether you still, if there's an impurity that's making you not see things completely accurately, or if it's a problem with a lack of expanding your awareness. And I mean, yeah, connecting with spirit daily, it's overall knowing that there's a divine intelligence guiding you. There's a higher power, and that you have to humble yourself. You have to, over and over again, let go of the lower ego. And it's a process, again, it's a muscle that you build. Let go of the lower ego drive and impulse and wanting to control and to be right. And, humble yourself to following the higher guidance, the higher will, which is a very uncomfortable process. this process is not easy. It's actually doing a lot of things that you don't want to do, taking a lot of actions that you don't want to take, because it comes with a lot of pain. Um, so I think that's what I want to say there. Um, and I think what I'll share as well is that because I've done it from the bottom up in terms of like building that foundation and coming up and up, what I felt is like initially I was connecting with my spirit, and now I feel God. And now I actually feel like I have a personal relationship with God. It's just how it's been for me. I know that other people have done it the reverse way, and it's no right or wrong way. Obviously, it's just wanting to share with you what it's looked like for me in terms of um, what's happening within me, which is actually very which actually came with a lot of shifts for me, because I used to view God more as an impersonal energy, and now I feel like I actually have a personal connection here in my heart. Um, the last thing that I want to touch on is that we cannot do any of that stuff whilst living in a toxic environment. Um, so what's important to understand is that I know that sometimes you feel like you don't have a choice based on your circumstances, but we always have a choice. And so we need to take the steps and ask for that guidance from spirit to get ourselves into a peaceful environment to be able to do all of that stuff. Yeah, I think that's what I want to say there. Also, the environment, never underestimate how much clutter actually affects this path for you, and how regularly decluttering your place has a way of shifting the energy inside of you and outside of you that, I think we don't understand how connected we are to our environment in that way. So that's also something that's been very helpful for me to become a minimalist, really. And except with books, I'm not a minimalist with books, but regularly declutter my place whenever I feel like I actually feel it. I actually feel like I need to. So I don't really have to think about that anymore. But yeah, it's a really helpful way to purify as well. Um, I think what I want to end with as well is that mistakes are inevitable on this path, and that's actually how you learn. Um, you can't really learn what's yours and what's not yours, or like how to purify things or how to discern things without getting it wrong. You have to feel what it feels like to get it wrong, so that you can fine tune what you're tapping into and what you're aligning yourself with. So don't be too hard on yourself. I think it's very important to understand that self-love is the foundation of this journey. And so that's why, the number one point of call that I've mentioned was to evict that inner critic, is because you need to have a loving presence and dialogue inside of you to be able to move forward. God is love. So it's not a criticizing force. You need love to be able to progress. And love doesn't mean cuddling or enabling. We also need to be able to uh, have a devotional commitment to truth, so that we don't run away from pain and discomfort. But it's still a loving presence, though. It's still a loving force. Um, and there's a quote actually that I want to share. That I was reading a book called "In the Light of Truth" that I really recommend to all of you. But I want to read that quote. It says, "The partition will soon become thinner and lighter, till it disappears altogether, and the pure untarnished spark bursts forth into a flame." So the partition, the gunk that's uh, preventing the the flow of your river to flow, like all those programs, unhealthy programming or cognitive distortions, and all that stuff that's making you view things in an incorrect way or not feel what's happening in your body. and not feel your spirit fully and your intuition. This process of inner work is a process of removing all of that so that that divine spark can fully burst out and you can feel fully transformed on the inside, and it will inevitably reflect on the outside. It's inevitable. Um, and this process takes time. I also want to stress that it requires a lot of patience. And I'm laughing as I say that because I'm an Aries sun sign. So patience is not my forte. And I've had to learn to be very patient on this path, because there are moments on this path where, well, first of all, you need the patience of being able to do the repetitive, boring stuff, to rewire your brain, to reconnect, all that stuff, and apply yourself. And it takes effort and determination and time. But also patience, as in sometimes you feel like nothing's really happening, and it's because a lot of things is actually happening inside of you, and you have to allow time to process. Like your nervous system needs time to be able to process the previous work and anchor more of that light. So there's a method to this madness. There's a divine intelligence that's in charge here. That's your spirit, and you have to learn to trust that. Um, because forcing and pushing things is never the answer, and that's when people start having a lot of issues in their body, because their nervous system is completely shut out and out of whack, or they go into these I don't know, spiritual psychosis or schizophrenia. And you have to be very careful on this path not to open your field too early or too soon, or do things that you're not supposed to do. You're not in charge. You have to follow that guidance. So that's all I had for you today. I hope this is helpful and that it's going to empower you on this path to keep it simple, to apply yourself, and to watch your entire life transform through this work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.